Hi, everyone, and welcome. Teddy here has been warming my space for me as I get ready to have a little fun time. So, bye bye, Teddy. We're going to do a hashtag today. And this hashtag I saw Danny Mystic on YouTube do, and she was having a blast with it. It's called Let's Be Tarot Friends. And so, this one I'm doing is VR as well to Tarot is Magic. That is the creator of the original hashtag. Not a new hashtag, been around for about a year. But Danny just got to it. I'm just getting to it. And this is the second time I've done this because I had a little ladybug friend coming down and it was crawling on my shoulder. So if you see him, don't be alarmed. I usually think of ladybugs as good luck, but these are Asian beetles and they're kind of stinky and sometimes they bite. But hopefully, I've gotten rid of him and we can settle down and have a great conversation. Okay, so the first question is, what type of art are you looking for in a tarot deck? Well, for me, it's something that maybe I don't have in my collection that will add to my collection, something that might stretch me. And if it comes with a book that's got different information than I normally can gather with a tarot deck, I'm all up for it. And I visually tend right now to be seeking decks with really deep color saturations. That's what I was trying to say. Okay, so what do you search for in a tarot deck? For me, it's a deck that I can have a conversation with, and that if I was to use it in public, that it would be a good reader. I'm looking for decks that visually inspire words, conversations, and dialogue between themselves on the table when I do a spread, so that I can relay that information to whomever I'm reading for. And I like it to be direct and factual. And we can all hope for accuracy in our readings, but if a tarot deck is speaking well for me and I take it out in public, I'm pretty sure it would probably speak well for other people as well. So, what deck are you most intrigued by right now and why? Well, this one has really got my attention and it's called the Change Tarot. Just got this in the last week or two. And it sort of got my attention last night when I was going through it and looking particularly at the Four of Wands. And there's the backs. Now, the Four of Wands to me, if I was reading for you and this came up, I would probably ask you if you're celebrating something, you've hit a milestone, or because of the wands, are you starting a business and sort of hanging out that shingle and trying to connect with the community? But in this little book, which is why I purchased it, I liked what it said, that it's going to stretch you psychologically and spiritually as it intertwines those two realms. Well, when I was looking at the Four of Wands in here, it's talking about evoking a sense of being welcomed home and belonging. And that kept coming up in this information in the book, that sense of belonging. And I never saw that in this card before. So for many, it says it's an important task to reset our sense of home so that we are drawn to situations that are affirmative and life-giving rather than replicators of the same sense of out-of-placeness. Well, this is when it really started to really open my eyes to another perspective of this card. It says, on this path, we may experiment with spaces that are like a quick salve to soothe in a moment. But I guess it's not just a moment. You want more than that. If you want to belong, you want that sharing, caring, loving environment that home gives you. And fours are stability. I really like this and where it's going. It says experimentation is common and normal for those seeking home. Just know that whatever space you're in, there's no shame in wanting to belong and be loved. Oh man, that really touched my heart. So I got all the fours out, and I'm really, really looking forward to seeing where else the words in here will push me. So that is the one deck that's intriguing me right now. And it is put out by Hay House. Okay, so, and I did do a short review on that one. Is there a card in a deck you always check out, and why? I tend to check out the kings and queens because I like the fact that they can be other characters, other people in our lives that have come to a reading. And especially if I'm reading for other people, then I can, if it's a king, it's an older type person. If it's a knight, it's younger. And I can try to build a story around that when I'm reading for people. I also look at the death card because as a Scorpio sign, the death card is transformation. And in a deck, the death card, if I'm going to take it out in public, I don't want it to be overwhelming for people. And I want to be able to talk about the transformation that it represents. So I want a card that they can really look at and put in their visual diary and take away with them from a reading. Okay, then, if there is one card in a deck you really don't like, would you want to miss out on it? If it's just one card, one or two, no, I could probably get past it. But it reminds me that I just did a merging of two decks. There were certain cards in the Light Seers and the Wild Reflections that, especially, I'm not sure which one it was, but there was a couple cards in the deck that didn't really resonate well with me or with other people. And I just found, because the decks seem like sisters to me and the same size, that merging those two decks, it sort of takes this out of the equation. That if there's a card or two in a deck that's really pissing you off, well, then you could merge those two decks and really take the cards you like and make a beautiful deck just for you. So I hope to do that several times this next year, in that there are decks that are lacking in certain areas, but great in others, and then find another deck similar and move them together. So what is your favorite and least favorite card in tarot, and why? When I'm reading, the least favorite card for me that comes up are usually the pages. I find in general that it's a young energy. It's a little bit slow and somewhat unreliable, not like a knight or a king that brings a little bit more authority. The Fool sometimes is difficult too, especially if I'm reading for someone else, because I got to learn to be tactful when I talk about and name the card as the Fool, but talk about the adventure more and moving into a new space, a new direction, and having the courage. I have to bring all that in. So sometimes some cards in the tarot take a little bit of tact when dealing with other people, I find. Okay, but before I leave that, I was going to say another card that's tricky is the Ten of Swords, because that can look really depressing and heavy in some readings. Yeah, especially with the blood and everything. But it goes along with what the card is. It makes its point and it does it well. But for me, I found several years ago it was coming up a lot for people suffering from depression and bipolarism. And I don't have enough information around working with that mindset that, I had to be tactful there too. But it is a very, very strong card. Okay, so what do people close to you feel about tarot and you doing tarot? Well, where I am now, in the wildness of Nova Scotia, there are no family and friends around that can offer their opinions around tarot. There are some family members that know that I still do it and maybe don't agree with what I do and call it that woo-woo stuff. But generally, with the new neighborhood that I'm living in, not everyone knows what I do, and I don't disclose it to everyone. Um, but I'm sure it is traveling through the grapevine since I did that Halloween 5-minute, $5 tarot reading in the community. I'm sure a lot more people know what I do, but do I necessarily worry about it? No. What makes me happy is the most important thing. Okay, so now we go on to number 8. How do you feel about the esoteric stuff in tarot? I think that is put there to stretch us, and there are definitely many people that have way more knowledge than I do about it. Sort of like the Kabbalah for me. I try, I've picked up several books, but the Kabbalah and I are not friends right now. Maybe in the future we will be. So that's my take on that. Number 9, this is asking, are you an RWS, a Lenormand, a Thoth, Marseille? Now they didn't mention a Lenormand, but I did. So RWS is really my number 1. Lenormand comes second. I do have some Thoth decks. And then Marseille. Now I'm building my collection of Marseille because I think as I grow, that type of deck is going to be important for the rest of my journey. Okay, now 10. What are your thoughts on cardstock? Bags? Well, cardstock first. I have some pretty crappy cardstock on some of my decks, but they're there as part of my collection, and some of the stuff I find at thrift stores, and some people collect dogs and cats and feel sorry for them and bring them home. That's how I feel about tarot decks in a thrift store. So I'm bringing them home. No, they're not the best quality decks, but I'll use them. I'll enjoy them. It's part of my collection. I do have some decks with some really good cardstock, but again, I wouldn't take those out in public and have multitudes of people handling them. They're for me. So now we get on to bags or boxes. I love some of the bags that people do for their tarot cards. I just don't know. I think it's Lisa Papaz. She has a wall of bagged tarot decks. I just don't know how you know which deck is in each one. For me, if I see the box and I see the image in my head, then I can go through my collection and pop, grab that tarot box. But for a bag, I do have a couple, and I do love them. There just has to be a better way for me to know what deck is in that one. Anyway, moving on. How did you learn tarot or get into it? Well, I saw a few readers read for me. I saw the excitement of them delving into the cards and then giving me the information and seeing, I guess, the excitement on my face when some of the stuff would ring true. I remember one person reading for me and saying, I see you surrounded by books. Well, at that time I was working in a library. Now that fascinated me, and I wanted to know how to do it. So how did I learn it? Stumbled into some witchy stores, stumbled into a dollar store, and found my famous dollar store deck. Spent a whole year learning this with some books, and that drove my journey further. Okay, the best news in the tarot world you've heard lately. Well, that the deck that I have been hungering for, the Wizard of Oz Tarot, is being issued in March, and March is not far off, so that was really good news to hear. How many decks are on your to get list? Not a lot. I do go on to sites and I put decks in carts, but I don't always go back and finalize that purchase. Something else interests me or my interest on that wanes. I do though think I might search out the Mary L. Tarot. Since I got the Oracle of the Morgan. Um, it's a strong deck, and I'm okay with that, so I think I might be ready for the Marielle as well. Now, 15. If you could keep only 3 decks, which ones would they be and why? Well, I'd keep my 3 special Baba purchase decks that my husband got for me. That's the Alice, the Victorian Romantic, and the Victorian Flower Oracle. They're all really gorgeous decks, really great cardstock. Would not take those out in public. But there's another section to this question in that if there was 3 decks that, if you're running out the door, which ones would you grab maybe? Or maybe it's more about which ones are you passionate about right now? And that would be the Call of the Morgan, my dollar store, and my teacup cards. They're a big staple in my tarot diet. Teacup cards are fantastic. If you've never tried those for divination, they are really fun. Functional. Okay, number 16. How does knowing tarot influence your day? Well, it certainly gets me up in the morning, and it's something that I think about at night and when I can't sleep. So it's not just my day, it's all encompassing. Tarot is a chance for me to learn, to dive into different realms, and to connect to the divine ancestors. It really is fascinating. Now, if you could turn back time, would you have learned tarot in a different way? Let's just think about that one for a second. Well, not just tarot, but divination in general. If I could go back and spend time at this age with my grandmother who read teacups, that would be fascinating. I really think that life is set out somehow wrong in that when we're ready to spend time with people, they have passed. And they have gifts that they could have shared with us. And I really think that hurts. So if I could go back and spend some time with my grandmother, she could have her teacups and all her tea leaves and the readings, and I could bring my tarot cards. It could be a blast and a real great way to make a connection. And I'd also like to spend time with my grandfather because he knew about healing with herbs and all that knowledge of the old folklore type healing. So I'd love to go back and spend time with him because he was also very intuitive. And I think he could teach me many, many things. Okay, what are your thoughts on the 3 of Swords? It does come up often in readings when I'm out in public. For me, it's not a problem. For them, it hurts. You can see the card, it hurts, because for me, it often comes up when reading for them and there's a divorce or separation going on. 9 times out of 10, it's divorce or separation. And that's tough to try to work around, and you might dodge it with a few other cards in the reading and then come back to it. You have to sort of sneak up on it. I have had it come up for a young teen that a parent gave me permission to read for her. And it was not divorce or separation. It was just the loss. I think she had lost her phone and her heart was, breaking. And how do I tell dad and all that goes along with it. So depending on who you're reading for, the 3 of Swords has many, many meanings. Okay, how many decks do you have? Probably about 300, but half of that is probably thrifted decks. As I say, I can't stand a thrifted deck sitting on a shelf. I gotta bring it home and give it a little space of its own. If you could befriend one person on TarotTube in the tarot world, who would it be? Well, I think that's already happened for me since starting my channel, Craggy Brook. I have met so many people, and I call them my friends, and I call them my besties, and we have super duper connections. So I'm not looking really to fulfill that need to befriend someone. There's people I admire on the internet and the YouTube for sure, but I also am appreciative of the people that I'm calling friends through my channel that I have met. My favorite part of the day to do tarot. Does there have to be a favorite time? Favorite time? Words, come on. Okay, so I do look at the computer generated one that pops up on my computer in the morning, and my husband and I both pick a card. The rest of the day, there's an awful lot of research on YouTube, watching other people's reviews, looking at decks. I mean, the whole day is filled. I don't think there's any one particular time. And at night when I can't sleep, as I say, I got tarot running around in my head again. So, any time is a good time. Okay, a confession. Okay, you're going to kind of find this one kind of weird. But I've been doing this for several years. I like to do divination through a crossword puzzle book. After you've done about half or 3/4 of the book, I find it works better. You put an awful lot of time and energy and thought into doing crosswords, and you've got that wordplay going on. But I find if halfway through and I need to ask one of my ancestors something, or I need an answer from the universe, we'll say, I'll just sort of thumb the papers a little bit together, stop somewhere, take my pen, and point at a word. And 9 times out of 10, it gives me a pretty darn good answer. If I'm talking to ancestors, especially my dad, we'll have 5 or 6 questions back and forth. And when he's tired and he's done, if I flip the little pages and use the pen and point and it lands on a black, I know that he's done. He's done talking. That's it. No more answers, no more questions. So it really is fun, a little bit weird, but it's something that works for me. So everybody, I hope you had fun with that. Didn't get drinking much of my tea, so I'm going to go heat this, load this video, and hope to hear back from everyone. Have a fabulous day.